Now, none of this is a reason for complacency, but it is a reason for cautious optimism. And it means that we can start to think about what the process of reopening Saskatchewan will look like.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe raised some eyebrows earlier this week when he broached the idea of reopening the provincial economy in the near future. The announcement came after several days of declining active case numbers in Saskatchewan. But with more than 1,000 new cases and more than 100 deaths in Ontario and Quebec combined today, many would and have argued it's not the time for even a preliminary conversation on a gradual return to normalization anywhere in the country.
It is far too soon for the Premier to be sending mixed messages to talk about reopening when we're still not handling everything we should be handling in terms of the immediate pandemic response.
Today, Saskatchewan's active case count continued to drop, dipping below 100 for the first time since March 26th. Moe says it shows what we are doing is working, describing it as cautious optimism. But at the same time he announced the provincial state of emergency has been extended for another 2 weeks, the consideration is still there for gradually and methodically allowing more Saskatchewan businesses to open.
This reinforces that even as we review options for a potential phased-in approach to reopen Saskatchewan, we are still in a state of emergency, and we must not be complacent. We must remain vigilant because, quite frankly, lives in our community and lives in our province depend on it.
Moe stated restrictions in several areas will not be relaxed, such as unnecessary travel, large gatherings, and visitation to long-term care facilities.
We know those are 3 very high-risk areas, and we will not be removing those restrictions in the foreseeable future.
As part of the first phase of a gradual reopening, Moe says they would be looking at businesses, services, and recreational activities that are low risk. He says government will come out next week with a more definitive list so that those businesses have time to prepare. But he says the reopening plan is contingent on continued strong numbers and physical distancing. For now, gatherings will be limited to 10 people. Schools will not be reopened this school year. As for mass gatherings of people in the thousands, such as a Rough Riders game, Moe says we are looking at months before that would be allowed to happen. He says they are nowhere near the point of even talking about it.
COVID is here for a while, for a number of months for sure before we are able to have access to a vaccine.
As to the argument it's too soon to talk about reopenings, Moe says there are some people who believe it's too late as well. Glenn Reed, CBC News, Regina.